Hello and welcome back to the Electronic Intifada's live stream for Thursday, July 2nd. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleagues Ali Abunimah, Asa Winstanley, and Tamara Nassar. John Elmer is off this week. It's day 1,000 of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Coming up, engineer, PhD researcher, and journalist Asem Alnabih will join us to reflect on this terrible milestone. He'll talk about survival, loss, family, starvation, memory, and the dreams, hopes, and futures Israel has tried to steal from the people of Gaza. But first, let's take a look at the news. Here's a brief summary of some of the latest developments this week in Palestine and Lebanon. Israel has carried out relentless attacks targeting Palestinian children, families, and security personnel across Gaza this week, as the occupation's so-called yellow line continues to push people westwards into shrinking and overcrowded spaces, and as Trump's colonial Board of Peace reanimates plans to lure Palestinians into concentration camps in the south. Since the fraudulent ceasefire was declared in October 2025, more than 1,050 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 3,500 have been wounded, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza. On Wednesday, Israel bombed a crowded central area of Gaza City, killing at least 2 people and injuring others. A drone strike on a group of people near a fuel station in northern Gaza killed at least 3 Palestinians, according to the Wafa news agency. A 10-year-old child was murdered in an Israeli strike in Khan Yunis on Tuesday. 2 men were also killed in the attack, according to reporter Ahmed Al-Najjar. East of Khan Yunis, the Israeli military carried out 4 large-scale demolition operations at dawn on Tuesday, targeting homes and civilian infrastructure. Artillery shelling also struck the northwestern areas of Rafah, while Israeli military vehicles opened fire toward the eastern parts of Khan Yunis, according to Wafa. In Gaza City, Israeli forces detonated a booby-trapped robot loaded with a large quantity of explosives, targeting homes in the Tufah neighborhood in the northeast of the city. This coincided with heavy gunfire from military vehicles and sporadic explosions in the Shujaiya and Tufah neighborhoods. The shelling extended to the eastern areas of Beit Lahia in the northern Gaza Strip and an area northwest of Gaza City. Israel killed at least 8 Palestinians on Monday in a series of strikes in southern, central, and northern Gaza. Diana Abu Draz, 23, and her 1-year-old daughter Siwar were killed in an Israeli drone strike on their displacement tent on Monday in the Mawasi area of Khan Yunis. Reporter Mohammed Al-Sha'ir captured a photograph of Siwar's body lying on a hospital bed with her head split open on the left side and her white onesie and black pants soaked in blood. More than 20 others were wounded in the drone strike targeting displaced people. An 8-year-old boy, Malik Wael Abu Shawish, was killed in a drone strike in Deir Balah in central Gaza on Monday morning. Reporter Anas Baraka captured footage of the ambulances arriving at the hospital and a paramedic carrying little Malik in his arms. The Wafa news agency said that the drone targeted a crowded area and killed Malik, along with 2 men, Ali Isbaitan and Hassan Salman. A Palestinian footballer, 32-year-old Salim al-Ashkar, was shot and killed by Israeli forces when he was walking home from work. A relative told Al Jazeera that al-Ashkar had stopped to buy fuel for his family when Israeli tanks nearby opened fire on him and others around him. He was shot in the chest. He had been married just 5 months ago, and his wife is expecting their first child. While people around the globe watch the World Cup, the Palestinian Football Association says that more than 1,000 athletes have been hunted and killed by Israel since October 2023. An 18-month-old child, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐴, was injured by Israeli fire in Jabalia in northern Gaza also on Monday. Reporter Mohammed Abu Salama captured footage, which I can't show here, of the toddler crying as doctors and nurses treated his injuries and tried to comfort him, his little hand still grasping a package of cookies that he was holding when he was shot by the Israeli soldiers. 4 Palestinians, including a child, were killed on Sunday in Israeli attacks in the north and south of Gaza. The Anadolu news agency said 2 young men were killed and a third was seriously injured in a drone strike in the northern town of Beit Lahia, and another woman was shot and injured in a separate attack nearby. Aline Al-Farah, a 13-year-old girl, was killed by shrapnel from an Israeli artillery shell fired at displacement tents in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Medical sources at Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis told the Wafa news agency that Aline's body arrived at the hospital after she died from a head injury caused by the shrapnel. Another Palestinian was killed and 3 others were wounded in an Israeli strike on a group of civilians near a fuel depot in Mawasi, west of Khan Yunis. 4 Palestinians, including a child, were killed on Saturday by Israeli strikes on displacement tents. Local reports say that Islam Hassan Abu Shamala, 15, was killed with her older brother Abdullah in their tent west of Khan Yunis. Another man, Zahir Abu Salam, was killed and 8 others were injured in the Israeli attack. A drone strike on a displacement tent in Gaza City wounded at least 10 people. Reporter Wissam Shabat captured footage of the aftermath of the Israeli attack. And a 10-year-old boy, Walid Yusuf Abu Jazar, died of wounds he sustained in an Israeli strike on Khan Yunis last week. At least 4 Palestinians were killed in Israeli drone strikes on Friday. Drop Site News reported that 3 police personnel, Iyad Muslim, Mahdi Jaber, and Mohammed Nafal, were killed when Israel launched a double-tap strike on police vehicles in Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza. Eyewitness Karam Al-Kurdi told Drop Site's reporter Mohammed Ahmed that after the first missile struck the police vehicle, residents ran to rescue a wounded survivor, but Israel launched a second missile before they could rescue him. Gaza's Interior Ministry said Israel's repeated attacks on the civilian police force are designed to spread chaos in Gaza. It called on the international community and the guarantor states of the U.S.'s supposed ceasefire agreement to pressure Israel to stop its systematic attacks on police personnel and assets. There is neither a truce nor safety, Al-Kurdi said, adding that around 130 displaced families are sheltering in the area Israel targeted. They tell you there's a truce. They're making a mockery of the Palestinian people, he said. Another man, Uday Hamdi Yunus, was killed in an Israeli drone strike in Beit Lahia, also on Friday. Palestinian health experts are warning that Israel's ongoing blockade of basic medical supplies will lead to the deaths of hundreds of patients with kidney disease. Our contributor, Asem Alnabih, who we will hear from later on in the program, reported for Al Arabi TV this week that most dialysis machines in Gaza have stopped due to a shortage of sodium bicarbonate, a necessary compound for hemodialysis, which is commonly known as baking soda. The shortage is a direct and deliberate result of Israeli restrictions on the entry of medical materials. Out of 52 machines at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, only 16 are able to function. On social media, Asem said that, quote, "It's distressing that these patients have been issuing repeated appeals since the onset of the aggression on Gaza. Alleviating their suffering requires only a minimal number of Israeli approvals to allow the entry of basic, specific items. Yet these appeals run up against deceptive Israeli restrictions, tactical measures that appear on the surface to lift the blockade, but in reality only exacerbate the suffering." Dr. Mohammed Abu Salmiya, the director of Al-Shifa Hospital, said that the sodium bicarbonate costs only $1 per unit, and the lack of this basic compound is putting at least 650 dialysis patients at risk. Additionally, there are only a handful of CT scanners left to serve people in Gaza. Reporting for the Electronic Intifada this week, Farah Samer Zaina says that in March 2024, the Israeli army destroyed Al-Shifa's CT scanner when invading the Gaza City hospital for the second time. She writes, quote, Al-Shifa's CT scanner was one of the 16 CT scanners that Israel destroyed throughout its ongoing genocide, according to a May 2026 document from the Ministry of Health in Gaza. According to the report, Israel has also rendered 76% of medical equipment in the Gaza Strip out of service, leaving people with 24% of equipment that is old, worn out, and malfunctioning. The entire Gaza Strip now is left with only 5 CT scanners that operate under very difficult and harsh technical conditions compared to the huge jump in the daily need for their services. Musa Ayad, the administrative manager at Al-Ahli Arab Hospital, told the Electronic Intifada that, quote, nearly 1 million people in the northern Gaza Strip rely on one 24-hour, fully operational CT scanner at Al-Ahli for all cases. The UN Humanitarian Office said this week that its healthcare partners are warning of a rise in chickenpox cases across Gaza. In just 2 weeks, they recorded nearly 9,300 reported cases across more than 130 health facilities, with more than half of these cases in Khan Yunis. Partners link this surge to the deteriorating environmental conditions, overcrowding, and sanitation and hygiene gaps. In related news, the Gaza government media office said this week that Israel is continuing to deliberately restrict hundreds of essential supplies needed to repair, rebuild, and maintain basic infrastructure as Israel continues to bomb and destroy houses, tents, civil structures, and water systems as the humanitarian crisis deepens and as the summer temperatures soar. According to the media office, Israel is preventing the entry of the following critical materials and supplies into Gaza: water pipes and network components of all kinds, sewage pipes and network components, manholes and manhole covers, cement and construction materials required for maintenance work, toilet bowls and sanitary fixtures, solar panels and their components, batteries of all sizes, electric generators, oils for engines and generators, mechanical and electrical spare parts, fuel in sufficient quantities, cooking gas, vehicle tires, plumbing tools, electrical tools, timber, glass, iron, steel, aluminum, and hundreds of other items essential for restarting basic services and infrastructure. Meanwhile, Israel this week boasted of its plans via Trump's so-called Board of Peace to begin trafficking Palestinians and moving them to concentration camps in the south of the Gaza Strip. According to Israeli media, quote, the Board of Peace will launch a pilot program in the coming weeks to manage humanitarian shelters in areas of the Gaza Strip that are not under Hamas control. The pilot program, according to the Israeli publication Israel Hayom, includes an international stabilization force to surveil, patrol, and control Palestinians inside the concentration camps, while Israeli forces will, quote, continue to hold its positions in areas beyond the yellow line. The plan also lays out how medical aid and food will be used to lure Palestinians into the concentration camps with the colonial expectation that this will, quote, loosen Hamas's hold on the population, end quote. We'll have much more on this story with Asem Alnabih later on in the program. Turning to the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces shot and killed a 15-year-old child, Amir Ahmad Jawad Jaber, on Monday in the city of Al-Bireh near Ramallah. Israeli soldiers shot the child in the head and the chest, leaving him in critical condition until he died later in the evening. In a new report called Unshielded Childhood, Palestinian children and teenagers killed
Hello. We have
Hi,
appeared to have
sorry.
we lost you briefly,
I
Nora.
know. I'll go back. Sorry about that. There was a internet glitch, I think.
That's okay. We're here for you in case it happens. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
all
Thank
right.
you.
Take it
Okay.
away, Nora.
Thank you. In a new report called Unshielded Childhood, Palestinian Children and Teenagers Killed by Israel in the West Bank in 2025, the Israeli human rights group 𝐓𝐡𝐞 says that Israel's extensive assault on Palestinians in the West Bank since the genocide on Gaza began in October 2023 has led to the killing of at least 235 Palestinian children and teenagers in the West Bank. 5 others were killed by settlers, the group says. In 2025 alone, the year that is the focus of their investigation, Israeli forces killed 54 Palestinian children and teenagers in the West Bank. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 says that, quote, the unprecedented scale of killing of Palestinian children and teenagers by Israeli forces is the result of a reckless open fire policy, expanded to be even more permissive than in the past, that is currently being implemented in the West Bank. Those responsible do not try to hide this policy. Rather, they give it full systemic backing, as reflected in the remarks of Central Command Chief Avi Bluth, who publicly boasted that we are killing like we haven't killed since 1967. Bluth's claim that 96% of those killed were involved in terrorism, an allegation exposed as a brazen lie by documentation of the circumstances of death in 𝐓𝐡𝐞's list of Palestinian fatalities, also reflects the Israeli system's routine identification of Palestinians killed by Israeli forces as terrorists or terror operatives, including civilians who were not members of an armed organization and posed no danger at the time they were killed. This identification creates de facto systemic impunity for killing. The Israeli system does not stop at justifying these killings after the fact, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 says. It also refrains almost entirely from holding the perpetrators accountable. Killing children in the West Bank cannot be separated from Israel's killing of more than 21,000 Palestinian children in the Gaza Strip, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 said. Quote, by allowing Israel to kill on such a scale in Gaza without consequences, the international community has effectively given it a green light to pursue the same lethal policy in the West Bank. As long as Israel continues to enjoy near total impunity in the world, the lives of Palestinians, including children, will remain unprotected and exposed. Israeli forces arrested a prominent Palestinian physician this week in a pre-dawn raid on his home in Ramallah. 71-year-old Dr. Mazen al-Rantisi, who is known as the Doctor of the Poor because of his longtime work providing care to low-income Palestinians, was abducted and taken to a police station inside the illegal settlement colony of Ma'ale Adumim, where the Guardian newspaper said he was believed to be under interrogation by the Special Investigations Unit of the Israeli police. Quote, Israeli authorities have not said why he was detained or where he is currently being held, the Guardian added. The Tel Aviv newspaper Haaretz said that the doctor's abduction is linked to his role as chairperson of the Union of Health Work Committees, a nonprofit organization established in 1985 by Palestinian left-wing activists that treats thousands annually, mainly in villages and communities far from city centers. In January 2020, the Israeli army designated the organization an unlawful organization, and in August 2022, Israel closed the union's main office in El Bire. As the Electronic Intifada's Maureen Claire Murphy reported at the time, the raid on the Union of Health Work Committees was one of 7 coordinated raids on organizations headquartered in the Ramallah area. All 7 organizations, Adamir, Al-Haq, the Bisan Center for Research and Development, Defense for Children International Palestine, the Union of Palestinian Women's Committees, the Union of Agricultural Work Committees, and the Union of Health Work Committees, were sealed shut and issued orders declaring their groups unlawful. Just before the 2022 raids, U.S. President Joe Biden had pledged to shield Israel from accountability, including at the UN and the International Criminal Court. The Guardian had reported that a classified CIA report shows the agency was unable to find any evidence to support Israel's decision to designate the Palestinian groups as terrorist organizations. The U.S. agency received intelligence from Israel regarding the designations, but like multiple European countries, did not find any evidence to support the claim, The Guardian reported, citing two sources familiar with the study. Despite not buying Israel's claims, Washington had refused to publicly challenge Israel over the designations and other measures taken against the Palestinian groups. That's from Maureen Claire Murphy's 2022 report, U.S. gives green light to Israel's attacks on human rights groups. And this week, 5 Palestinian women who work with health organizations were arrested on Wednesday morning. Middle East Eye reports that Jamila Abu Dahu and Jamila Kanan from Ramallah, Maysar al-Faqih and Faten Hanaisha, who were both previously imprisoned and are both from Nablus, and Itaf Badr from Hebron, in addition to 15 other Palestinians, were abducted and arrested from their homes by Israeli forces. Abdurrahman Badr, the husband of 66-year-old Itaf Badr, told Middle East Eye that soldiers stormed their home in Hebron, searched the rooms, and opened the wardrobes before taking her to a military vehicle, handcuffing her, and blindfolding her. Itaf is a member of the administrative board of the Union of Health Work Committees and has been active for 20 years in the field of family support and women's empowerment. The Israeli army raided Faten Hanaisha's office at the Union of Health Work Committee's headquarters in Nablus 2 weeks ago, confiscating documents and a laptop she used for her work. The Palestinian NGO network called for intensified efforts and expanded pressure campaigns on the Israeli occupation to stop targeting doctors and health and humanitarian organizations in Palestine, and to activate international accountability mechanisms to secure the release of detained doctors. In related news, Israeli forces raided the headquarters of the Al-Tadamon Charitable Society in Nablus on Sunday, accusing it of, quote, supporting terrorism, and ordered its closure for 1 year. The Wafa news agency reported that Israeli soldiers vandalized the building that houses Al-Tadamon for more than 2 hours before Israeli military vehicles entered the adjacent streets and raided the offices. Sources told Wafa that Israeli soldiers were seen running cables from inside the building to the outside. The purpose of the operation was unclear. Al-Tadamon is a prominent humanitarian and social services organization that was established to provide relief services, financial aid, and care for orphans, while also operating at least 3 schools and a clinic. A source close to the organization told the AFP news agency that the Israeli move was linked to, quote, accusations of coordination with the Gaza-based rights organization Al-Damir. Al-Damir Association for Human Rights is an independent Palestinian non-governmental organization based in Gaza that works to promote democracy, the rule of law, and internationally recognized human rights. Last month, Al-Damir released a report, Missing Palestinians in the Gaza Strip Amid the Genocidal War, addressing the more than 9,500 cases of missing and unaccounted for Palestinians, including 4,700 women and children, quote, in what constitutes one of the most complex and painful humanitarian crises resulting from the ongoing genocidal war. Israeli forces demolished a sports field for boys in the town of Batir, west of Bethlehem, on Tuesday this week. Akram Badr, head of the Batir Municipal Council, told the Wafa news agency that occupation forces stormed the town and deployed around the school near the historic railway line before demolishing the retaining wall surrounding the field and completely bulldozing its surface. Badr said the sports field was built more than 60 years ago and has long served as one of the town's key sports and community facilities. On Monday, Israeli soldiers raided homes in the town of al-Zawiya and carried out searches while deliberately breaking and tampering with people's belongings, causing extensive damage. Israeli settlers, meanwhile, seized a Palestinian home in the town of Atara, smashing belongings and bringing in their own furniture. Residents of the village told Wafa that this follows an incident a few months ago when settlers set up 5 tents and brought hundreds of sheep as a prelude to seizing vast tracts of land east of the town and then using the outpost to launch arson and vandalism attacks. And in the town of Zabuba, west of Jenin, Israeli bulldozers destroyed hundreds of mature olive trees on Sunday. Middle East Eye reported that at least 500 olive trees across 50 dunams of land were uprooted, less than 3 months before the annual harvest. The head of the village council said that further bulldozing is expected in the coming days, with around 120 dunams of olive groves in the area at risk of being razed. Residents had previously been told by the army that the land would be cleared to create a security buffer zone along the separation wall, much of which runs through land belonging to the village. The affected area contains around 2,000 olive trees. Their owners had been preparing for the October harvest, but are now facing the prospect of losing much of this year's crop. In Lebanon, Israeli attacks have not stopped. Our contributor Roqayah Chamseddine reported on Wednesday that an Israeli drone strike initially targeted a parked vehicle in the town of Nabatiya al-Faqwa in the south. Following the strike, a civil defense team from the Islamic Health Authority came under Israeli gunfire while inspecting the site, forcing them to evacuate the area. Shortly thereafter, another Israeli drone strike targeted Nabatiya al-Faqwa. On Tuesday, reporter Hadi Hotate stated that the Israeli occupation army attacked Beit Yahun with machine gun fire and artillery shelling. He added, quote, "This went in parallel with heavy drone activity above border villages, focusing on the Bint Ijbail and Sur region, with continuous drone activity above the Nabatiya area." For more on the situation on the ground in Lebanon, Roqayah Chamseddine filed this report for the Electronic Intifada on Wednesday.
This is Roqayah Chamseddine reporting for the Electronic Intifada. The Lebanese resistance and its allies are drawing a hard line against the latest framework agreement, a deal being pushed by the United States and Israel as a pathway to peace, but one that is being rejected on the ground as a blatant ultimatum. The reality is that this text attempts to achieve through blackmail what the Israeli military has failed to secure during its ground invasion of southern Lebanon. The core of this proposal demands that Hezbollah unilaterally disarms under the guise of pilot zones, making an Israeli military withdrawal contingent on Lebanon stripping away its only defense. Israel wants a signed surrender while keeping a green light to continue its occupation, and so far, the government, under President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, have given it this green light. All of the political pressure being aimed at Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance community is also happening under fire. Even following the recent framework announcement, Israel has continued its campaign of terror against the civilian population in South Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. In just the last few days, the official death toll from this aggression has climbed to over 4,270 martyrs. Over the past week, relentless Israeli airstrikes have hammered towns in southern Nabatiya and across the Bekaa Valley, directly targeting residential neighborhoods and rescue infrastructure with sound bombs, agricultural destruction, demolition campaigns, and drone strikes. In the face of this ongoing Israeli aggression, Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has stood firmly with the Lebanese resistance, delivering a blow to the legitimacy of the U.S. brokered initiative. Berri made it clear that this document will not pass, calling it an agreement of dictates that no sovereign nation would ever accept. Crucially, Berri warned that the real danger of this U.S. plot is its attempt to spark internal strife, trying to force a confrontation between the Lebanese state and its own people. Hezbollah's leadership has echoed this warning, calling the demands for disarmament an incredibly dangerous trap. For the resistance, their weapons aren't a bargaining chip to be traded away. They are the only thing standing between Lebanon and total Israeli expansionism. The message from the streets remains absolute, that Lebanon will not sign a surrender, and the weapon of the resistance is completely non-negotiable.
That was Roqayah Chamseddine reporting for the Electronic Intifada from Lebanon on Wednesday. We've published many features in the last week, but today we're highlighting Stable Childhood is Out of Reach in Gaza by Isra Mashharawi, writing from Gaza. Isra's daughter Aya is barely 2, but Isra writes, she reacts to things in a way that feels too big for her age. Here, Isra reflects on the irony of listening to a lecture for an online course focusing on stable environments as the basic condition for healthy childhood development. In May 2026, Isra was listening to the lecture and taking notes while Aya slept next to her on a mattress. She writes, quote, I tried to concentrate as much as I could. The Israeli drone was roaming overhead. It's buzzing. We describe drones with the word zanana after the sound of bees, echoing through the glassless windows in our apartment. The specialist moved on to brain plasticity in early childhood, where neural connections rapidly develop during the first 1,000 days and are influenced by psychological stability and a sense of safety. I was trying to note that down before I was caught off guard by an orange light emanating ominously from behind the curtains. A loud explosion followed, blowing the curtains open, ushering in the orange light that glowed through the room. The light grew bigger and stronger, and I thought it was fire piercing into our room. The wall itself seemed to have been pushed inward by the force of this airstrike. Aya woke up petrified and darted out of the mattress, clinging tightly to me as she called out, Mama, in a trembling voice, her eyes wide open and fixed at me. I ran downstairs in panic, Aya between my arms, and I left everything behind. A sudden roaring sound of a warplane overhead, a dog barking in the street, or even a plate falling to the ground and breaking makes Aya freeze for a few seconds and then cry before running toward me. She is startled by a door slamming suddenly or trucks honking, and when a car nearby speeds, the sharp sound makes her panic. Whenever she is frightened, she runs and hides in my lap, clinging to my arm and burying her head under my neck, trembling, her body visibly tense. As her eyes stay wide open, unblinking, she repeatedly calls Mama, Mama, followed by a woo. She makes the sound a woo, a dog howl, when she tries to tell me what she is afraid of, a noise or something she perceives as frightening. She was not always like this, terrified by these sounds, but after several ceasefire violations and repeated airstrikes in the area, she became more fearful, where small things make her body react before her mind catches up. I keep thinking about how all of this knowledge on a sustainable childhood and children's well-being, resilience, protection, and safe spaces is limited since its practical application does not seem to fully include all children equally, particularly those living in unstable or war-affected environments like Gaza. In such an environment, even when my child is asleep, she doesn't fully let go of me. She often holds my arm as if checking that I'm still there. I realize that Aya doesn't just learn from what I tell her, but she learns from what her body lives through again and again. And the science on this is clear. Long-term stress affects emotional regulation and long-term health. This was discussed in the lecture, supported by an article from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child. I'm not questioning whether that is true or not, but I want to know what we do when stress and fear don't go away. And when I say don't go away, I'm also referring to myself as a parent or caregiver. Caregivers are central in providing emotional security, shaping early experiences, and directly supporting healthy brain development. The Sustainable Childhood course broached how parents are particularly critical during early childhood, when the brain is rapidly developing and forming neural connections that are highly sensitive to environmental influences. I've also read many books on parenting and child development, like The Whole Brain Child, and 2 Arabic books titled Child Psychology and Mental Health and Child Mental Health from Birth to 12 Years. The advice is always the same: a calm caregiver, predictable routines, emotional availability. I know how important parents are in forming a stable environment that shapes a child's personality, intelligence, and emotional growth. But here, the caregiver is also living in the same stress and fear. I'm supposed to alleviate my daughter's fear and make her feel safe when I myself am frightened to death and can't even guarantee my safety. I see how that has affected me too, in how fast I react to sound, and how I try to control my voice before I even realize I'm anxious, and how calm feels temporary, not normal. I'm learning about childhood development while also trying not to pass on what I am living through. When Aya is afraid, I hug and soothe her to draw her fear away. Only in my arms does she gradually calm down. Sometimes I try to distract her by clapping or doing funny gestures to shift her attention away from what frightens her. Neither can I stop the F-16 nor change the path of a missile, but I try to offer safety as much as I can and build it moment by moment for my daughter. Several minutes passed before I climbed back to the apartment, shaking in fear while Aya was in my arms. The lecture was still playing in the background, from which I could catch fragments. I was unable to focus, whereas the lecture was moving smoothly, uninterrupted, discussing safety, routine, and emotional consistency. Nothing in it was wrong. That's what made it harder. It was just completely detached from where I was. I looked at my notebook. Stable environments. Stability is just unattainable here in a life that only consists of interruptions. Interruptions with swift moments of stability in between. Those are excerpts from Stable Childhood is Out of Reach in Gaza by Isra Mashharawi, a writer and translator in Gaza, on electronicintifada.net. And now, as we always do, we wanted to highlight people expressing joy, determination, and reclamation across Palestine and around the world. Taysir Obaid, who uses his social media account to highlight his talent for resourceful construction and creative repairs of common household items in the absence of regular materials because of Israel's ongoing blockade, shows us how to create a small swimming pool for kids who need relief and joy in the summer heat amidst their displacement tents in Gaza. Laying down tarps and plastic sheeting, Obaid offers a way to make a children's pool without much effort. Everyone plays and laughs, he says.
مسبح بسيط للأطفال بدون مجهود كبير. راح أوريكم طريقة سهلة وسريعة: حفر حفرة، ووضع النايلون، وخلي الأطفال يستمتعوا. يا سلام على البركة، الكل يلعب ويضحك. أسهل طريقة تستغل فيها الصيف.
And that's it for the news roundup. As always, go to electronicintifada.net for much more, especially to read our new features by our brave writers in Gaza. You're watching the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleague Ali Abunimah. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Nora. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that it's 1,000 days of genocide, and every single day has been a day of horrors.
Yeah.
Big and small. I mean, I don't mean small. I mean personal, intimate horrors, and then on a huge scale. And also of incredible resilience, as we're going to talk about with Asem in a few moments.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out that, all those stories from across Palestine, and one in there was very personal to me, the story about Batir in the West Bank and the destruction of the playing field for the school. That's my dad's school that he went to as a boy, and that's the playing field he played on. So that school in Batir and that playing field next to it are much older than Israel, than
Yeah.
the entity that is destroying homes and, as we saw, bulldozing olive groves across the West Bank, and of course continuing the genocide in Gaza. So this state is destroying indigenous life, trying to destroy indigenous life, but
All levels. Yeah.
it persists.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unimaginable. I mean, 1,000 days it's a milestone in terms of how we count, and the pain and the suffering that has been consumed and carried out in that body of time. But yeah, I mean, thinking back, it doesn't. You cannot calculate the loss, and not just people who die and are killed by bombs and shrapnel and drone strikes and sniper fire and machine guns and tank shelling and artillery, but by the secondary killing of lack of health care of these patients on dialysis who can't get baking soda, something that everybody has in their cabinet, that is an essential component for hemodialysis treatment.
Yeah.
Um,
And like
Yeah.
we hate to reduce human life to numbers and
Yeah.
statistics, and that's
Yeah.
why we you just read that incredible piece from Gaza, and of course we're going to talk to Asem soon, because we want people to understand the experiences that real human beings are having. But if you think about that, 1,000 days, the official death toll, let's say not the
Right.
official death toll, that's not the correct way to put it.
Conservative. Yeah.
The confirmed death
Yeah.
toll. In
Yeah.
other words, the number of deaths that the health ministry can count is now around 73,000. So we're talking about 73 people, 73 Palestinians killed per day on average for 1,000 days, confirmed. But since it's almost certain that hundreds of thousands, according to very credible estimates, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been killed, either directly through bombs and bullets or due to other genocide-related deaths from illness, from untreated injury, from just the dirty water, all the things that go with genocide. We might be talking about 300 people a day. 300 people a day if it's 300,000, maybe 500 people a day for 1,000 days. This is extermination. This is genocide. And I just noticed before the show, the European Union, for example, of course they're not alone, putting out a tweet saying 1,000 days since October 7th and remembering the victims on October 7th, and not mentioning Palestinian victims of this genocide. They claim that 1,200 Israelis were killed on October 7th. Leave aside how many of them were killed by Israel, how many of them were soldiers. Leave that aside. Take that 1,200. Israel has been killing, credibly, hundreds of Palestinians each and every day on average for 1,000 days.
This is where we are, and yet Palestinians continue to exist and resist and get up and go to work and find food and water and take care of their kids and try and get an education, like Isra al-Mashrawi, the wonderful writer that I read from. She's raising her daughter and trying to understand childhood development, which I know you're also an expert on as well.
I wouldn't say an expert, but I had a prior career in research related to that. So I was listening very closely to her piece. And, this is this is an experiment in child cruelty
Yes.
that is on, never seen before in
No.
modern history,
No.
what Israel is doing, how these millions of children will develop through their life. They will be affected for decades. They will be affected for decades.
Yeah.
And it's so important that they have parents who, despite everything they've been through, many have lost their parents, of course, but many of them still have parents who are so dedicated to giving them some kind of environment they can grow up in. And that will make a difference, but their parents are facing extraordinary challenges. And all of those things, the themes we discussed with Asem, I should say, we actually recorded this conversation yesterday for today, which is day 1000 of the genocide, because we wanted to make sure we had a stable connection. So, do you think we should turn
I
to
think
that
we
now?
should. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's
do
as
it.
a remarkable, as usual.
Beautiful.
Asem is just a
He's
very
treasure. Yeah.
treasure, a philosophical person amid extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah. Let's go to that.
You're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Ali Abunimah, here with my colleague Nora Barrows-Friedman. It has now been 1,000 days since October 7th, 2023, 1,000 days of Israel's genocide in Gaza. And we should be clear, this was a genocide from the start. Immediately, Israeli leaders were declaring their intentions openly. On October 9th, 2023, then Defense Minister and now indicted war criminal Yoav Gallant announced what he called a complete siege on Gaza. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we act accordingly, he said. The International Court of Justice later cited that and other statements as evidence of a plausible genocide and ordered Israel to halt all genocidal acts, a ruling it has ignored with impunity. Benjamin Netanyahu also told Israeli soldiers, "You must remember what Amalek has done to you," says our Holy Bible, and we do remember. The Israeli Prime Minister was, of course, invoking a biblical injunction to entirely destroy the population, including mothers and babies. Now, 1,000 days later, the confirmed death toll has passed 73,000 Palestinians killed, with more than 173,000 wounded. Gaza's health ministry figures are viewed as reliable by UN agencies and independent experts, but even those figures exclude many people still missing under the rubble. And credible estimates indicate that the real death toll is much higher. A Lancet Global Health study estimated that more than 75,000 Palestinians were violently killed in just the first 15 months of the genocide, already far above the official count at the time, with possibly hundreds of thousands more non-violent deaths caused by disease, injury, and the collapse of life-sustaining systems. To reflect on these 1,000 days, we're joined once again by our friend Asem Alnabih in Gaza. Asem is an engineer, a PhD researcher, and he was the spokesperson for the Gaza municipality. He's now a correspondent for Al Arabi TV. He's been in Gaza since the start of the genocide, and Electronic Intifada viewers know him well from previous live stream conversations. Asem has also written powerfully for the Electronic Intifada about survival, loss, family, starvation, memory, and the dreams, hopes, and futures Israel has tried to steal from the people of Gaza. Asem, welcome back to the Electronic Intifada live stream.
Hey all, it's lovely to be again with you and to be live on EI live stream. We are all here in Gaza like EI. We support them. We appreciate their effort, the team and everyone who's doing something to support Gaza, to support the Palestinians who are really suffering from the Israeli genocidal war in Gaza, in the West Bank, and every land that the Palestinians are exist.
So good to see you again, Asem.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you,
Ali.
Asem. before we talk about the past 1,000 days as a whole, just give us a snapshot of what life in Gaza looks like right now. What does survival mean today in practical terms? What's the situation with food, water, fuel, shelter, displacement, services, and simply how are people getting through their day?
Actually, Ali, I think we must be clear about the situation in Gaza right now, because based on the Israeli media, there is a ceasefire right now in Gaza. But when you walk on the streets, when you really watch the reality on the ground, you can notice clearly that the genocidal war is still ongoing in Gaza Strip. There is more than 1,045 martyrs in Gaza after the announcement of ceasefire after October 10th, 2025. There is more than 3,200 people injured. This is in the time of so-called ceasefire, based on the Israeli media. Also, the humanitarian situation is still very bad. Israel only allowed a limited amount of fuel, limited amount of humanitarian aid, limited amount of medical supplies, and that's why the suffering of people is still continuing in the city, among the people, among the majority of people, actually. Based on the updated reports, the recent reports, there is more than 1.9 million people are internally displaced in Gaza Strip. While can you imagine that those people staying in less than 30% of the total area of Gaza Strip, because the actual area that people now are staying in is less than 30%, while the Israeli army is actually staying and taking control of more than 70% of the total land and the total area. And if you take the note that more than 90% of the housing units in Gaza Strip are being damaged, so we are talking about less than 5% or less than 10% of the actual area that people are staying in. They are staying in streets and the seaboard, on the beach. They are staying in any single small land just to protect their kids while they are staying in tents. Tents could be suitable for for camping for 3 days on beach, but it's not really suitable for living in for more than 3 years now. So it is very hot. We are talking about nylon and plastic and very bad quality of tents. The situation in Gaza and the weather now is very hot. People are getting limited amount of water. Based on the recent reports, they are getting that every single person gets less than 10 liters. This 10 liters for drinking, for showering, for cleaning, for every single need, while the international standards talking about 120 liters per day per person. So can you imagine the difficulties that people are staying? And the 120 liters for someone stay in a house, in a clean house, not in a tent with very dirty, atmosphere and the sewage around you, without any facilities, there is no sewage infrastructure. So we can confirm from what we watch, and I work because of the nature of my work. I see people and new people every day, so I can feel that the war is not over yet. Maybe the Israeli platforms and the Israeli leaders convince the world that the war is over. But unfortunately, from what we see in the ground, the war is still ongoing.
And it's 1,000 days now. And, like you said, Israel is still pushing westwards. Their so-called yellow line is being moved all the time. And buildings and infrastructure east of the so-called yellow line is being demolished and exploded day after day after day. And as you said, the world has basically washed its hands of anything that could bring an end to this genocide. Israel Hayom, a newspaper that's closely aligned with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, is reporting that, for example, Trump's Board of Peace plans to begin opening what it calls Hamas-free humanitarian zones in Gaza within weeks. And we've been reporting on this, you've been reporting on this for many months. This has been a long-standing plan, essentially to create these concentration camps within a concentration camp of Gaza to warehouse Palestinians. And the first zone of this diabolical plan would reportedly be in Tel El Sultan near Rafah, with civilians directed into fenced shelters where food and medical aid would be distributed, while an international force is deployed and Israel continues operating beyond the so-called yellow line. Full surveillance. They're talking about biometric scanning of people. And this article describes this as a way to separate Hamas from the civilian population, quote, piece by piece. And the Board of Peace also published these photos showing military vehicles for a so-called international stabilization force being brought into Gaza. And this has also been a long-standing plan of theirs. From Gaza, Asem, how do Palestinians understand this kind of plan? And will Israel and its accomplices be able to succeed here?
Like, this is like funny photos, publishing these tactical vehicles as like an achievement. It's like, what does that mean? I mean, for us, for the majority of people in Gaza, it doesn't matter. We can't understand what does that mean. I mean, the new cars to the strip mean nothing, because if you have the ability to bring things to Gaza, I have a list. We have a very long list. So if you have the ability and you have the money to bring things to Gaza Strip, please, we are screaming, we are crying for 1,000 days, asking you for water, for medical supplies, for fuel to run and to operate our water wells and our sewage pumps. So if those leaders really understand the situation in Gaza Strip, they might be interested in bringing many other things. And if they really care about the people in Gaza, and because I saw some statements that Gazans deserve better. Yes, of course, we deserve better. But better than these statements, better than these news, better than these actions. And if we want about what we deserve our rights, just our human rights. We have been suffering for almost 8 decades. It's not only about 1,000 days. The Palestinians in Gaza, in West Bank, and everywhere, even outside Palestine, the historical land, the historical Palestine. We have been suffering for years, for decades now. So I think they understand that it will be no solution until they give us our right. They can bring these cars, they can bring the international crews, they can take over 70% of our land, they can do the new Gaza and the old Gaza, the new Gaza for people, for non-Hamas Gazan people, and the old Hamas for the old Gaza for the Hamas soldiers only. They can do all of these plans, but there is only one solution, and I think the leaders of this world know that. They know that Israel is making its crimes in Gaza Strip and West Bank, and there is no reason for those crimes. They must follow the international law as they say it, and if they really want to follow the international law, they must open the Rafah border to let more than 20,000 people, illness people, injured people, who got injured by Israel, by the way. So Israel is not allowing medical supplies and medical devices to enter Gaza, and they also denying those people to leave Gaza to receive the treatment that they deserve. So, like, as someone who is staying in Gaza for almost 1,000 days of genocide, and I really understand the situation in Gaza Strip, I think people does not read this news. They don't care about this news. Every single morning, they think about what to eat, where to stay, how to get drinking water, where to send their kids to attend school, educational school, or something, how to earn some money to bring the medicine for his mother or his wife. So if they really care about us, they know what we need, they know what we deserve. Otherwise, I think they are just playing with us. They are just trying to increase our suffering. They don't care about the people. They don't really care about the people in Gaza. They don't care about the humanitarian situation in Gaza Strip. They are just playing political games that we don't really understand, because for 1,000 days, we call that we want our rights, our human rights, as the international law said and stated. But from the other hand, what we can see in the ground, that Israel is continuing her crimes against the civilian people, against the children. And there is many reports, by the way, mention that the killing rate among the children in this war, in this genocidal war, is 40% among the total victims, 40%, while the killing rate among the children in the other wars, like 2008, 2012, was 24%. So it increased from 24 to 40%. So I just want to stop here because I feel upset about this news, as someone is following this news because of my current work right now. But the majority of people here are really suffering because of Israel, and if the world really wants to help them, he really knows what can he do.
Yeah, it's also striking to see those images of them bragging about bringing military vehicles into Gaza. It means they have the ability to bring in everything that's needed food, water, medicine, shelter materials, even temporary shelters, but also material for reconstruction. And it's a choice of the so-called Board of Peace and the United States and Israel and their accomplices not to do that, to keep the pressure on the population. So they could be boasting about bringing in things that will help people, but they prefer to focus on bringing in more equipment to control and police and occupy the population. Asem, you've been in Gaza throughout this genocide from the very first day, and you've been separated from your family, from your wife and your children who were out of the country when the genocide started, and you've been away from them since then. You haven't held your children, they haven't hugged their father for 1,000 days, more than 1,000 days, in fact. When you think about this long period of time, what are the moments that stay with you the most? What are you reflecting on right now?
Actually, the most we have faced many difficult moments. Actually, every single moment was a difficult moment because as a humans, we shouldn't live in this situation while bombardments around you. You can't find food, you can't find water, you can't find even a grave for your loved ones. So in September 2024, I lost my nephew Ahmad, 12 years old, and my niece Roqayah, 11 years old. An Israeli soldier decided to kill them. Till now, I can't really imagine the reason why two innocent kids, they were studying in a very difficult situation, you know, without electricity, with very bad slow internet connection, with, you know, miserable situation. But he decided just to kill them. Two lovely kids. So, but that wasn't the most difficult thing, because when we took them to the cemetery, we couldn't find two graves for them. So we put them together, we laid them together in one single small grave. And I remember the face of their father, a very beautiful, a very lovely father who was very sad, but he couldn't cry because he wanted to hold on and to keep his strength. And can you imagine that, putting your kids, all of them, they had only those kids, and as a father, you put the whole of your kids in one single grave, putting them, and you don't understand why they got that the two Israeli rockets. So when I and that's moved me to my family, talking about my lovely wife Islam and my two lovely kids, Iyad, 11 years old, and Furat, 5 years old, more than 5.5. So I'm not sure why I must be away from my family, why I can't just hug them and see them right now. Iyad is moving to, he finished his primary school and moved to the mid school just a few days ago. Furat finished her early years school, the kindergarten, and she will move to the primary school in a few months. And she used to call me, actually, in the beginning of this war. She used to call me, and she was 2.5 years old only, and she used to tell me, Baba, come, Baba ta'al, in Arabic, just come. And I was just, couldn't answer her because I have no answer. But now, after 3 years of genocide, she is asking the same question, but in different ways. Like, will you come to attend my graduation? Will you bring me this new dress, pink dress? So it is very difficult. Every single one of us facing the Israeli ugly face from his side. So I lost my nephew and my niece, my brother-in-law, my friends, a lot of my family members, our houses, our like we lost everything. We lost our city, the lovely Gaza that everyone, and you already visited Gaza, and you already felt the soul of Gaza, a lovely warm soul that you couldn't feel anywhere else. So they destroyed our lovely city, our streets, our memories. They tried to kill our identity, our language, our heritage, our historic. But we are still here. We are still alive. I'm still trying to hug my daughter, even remotely. Like she is like, Baba, I miss you. Hug, and she just trying to hug the other screen, and I do the same. And her birthday, I sent her like a live singing, and they bought it for her like in her celebration. But from the other hand, there is a lot of kids here in Gaza. They couldn't celebrate their birthdays. They couldn't attend the school. They couldn't get the treatment they deserve. And this is all because of Israel. We must be clear that Israel is the reason for our suffering. Israel is the reason for this miserable situation that we are living in. And yes, I am afraid to say that because Israel does not need a reason to kill anybody in Gaza. But yes, being in Gaza is really scary right now, because even during the ceasefire, Israel is killing people. And they are killing journalists, they are killing children, they are killing doctors, they are killing mothers, wives. They are killing Palestinians in Gaza. And yes, 1,000 days. I can count you 1,000 difficult moments. But this is not the worst thing, because I know tomorrow I will face another difficult moment. And after tomorrow, I will face another difficult moment because of Israel. So there is no limit for those difficult moments, because we are still having Israel here, in the sky, in the land, in the yellow line. They are monitoring our calls. They are monitoring our connections. They are controlling everything. So, yes, unfortunately, my and our difficult moments will be tomorrow, after tomorrow, and until Israel is gone.
Yeah. And every day we're closer to that, hopefully. You mentioned your daughter graduating, and you actually sent us a little video clip that your wife sent you just a few days ago of her walking the stage. So I think we can show that. It's so beautiful and moving. Walking with such dignity and confidence, and she gets that from her parents. And even though you're far away, just
her name is Furat, Arabic for
Euphrates.
Euphrates River. and it means pure and sweet water. So if you ask her what's your name, sometimes she's pure and sweet water. So like she's really lovely, alhamdulillah.
Just unbelievable.
It's
She's perfect.
It's wonderful to see her, and we hope you'll be reunited with her soon. Asem, you mentioned, of course, that you've lost many friends over these past 2.5 years, and I wonder if it's even possible for a human being to absorb that amount of loss or to grieve over so many people. I still think every day about our dear friend Dr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 and over these last 1,000 days, he was killed very early in the genocide after less than 2 months living through the genocide. And during these past few years, you had the very difficult task of finding him and bringing him home, bringing his body home to rest in Shuja'iyya. And that's something that must have brought great peace to his family, to his parents, and to his many friends around the world. And I just wanted to acknowledge that on these 1,000 days. I don't really have a question, but it's something I've thought about a lot. And we're all very grateful to you for undertaking such a difficult and painful task, mindful that so many people in Gaza have not had the dignity of a burial.
By the way, we moved Rifat to this cemetery near Shuja'iyya, and yes, till now his father and his mother didn't visit him because this place was very near to the yellow line. So I visited his father and his mother, and I offered them to go with me, but I couldn't take that risk because, you know, being near the yellow line would be risky. So I suggested them just to make it later. Like I thought that it might need another 2 weeks, but now we are talking about 6 months now. So till now, his mother couldn't see his grave. So she lost him in December 6th in 2023. And so far, she couldn't visit him. She couldn't see her son's grave. And that's again because of Israel. Rifat tried his best, tried to convey the message of his people, and he paid the cost of being a legitimate messenger, and he told the world the truth. And there is one side didn't like the truth. They are fighting the truth. They are attacking the truth. They hate the truth. And we lost Rifat and a lot of people like Rifat. We lost a lot of our great, clever, smart, perfect people in Gaza. A lot of doctors, engineers, workers, a lot of our kids, a lot of our mothers, a lot of our people. You know, every single one of us is a perfect one, is a lovely character. They had stories, they had memories, they had dreams. But Israel killed them and killed Rifat. And they didn't stop yet. They just kill people every day. Even today, they killed 3 so far. So losing Rifat is difficult for us, for the Palestinians around the world, and for me as his friend and for his family. And I think I told you earlier that my niece and my nephew from Al-Ararir family. So because the husband of my sister from Al-Ararir family, Rifat, and my brother-in-law are from the same family. So even his family, even his big family, understand the meaning of losing Rifat, because for them he was perfect, and every single person to his family is perfect. So, but because we knew Rifat, we remember Rifat, we respect Rifat, but we need also to remember another 73,355 people, and there is another 10,000 people missed. You know, we couldn't know where are they, even if they are beneath the rubble or in the Israeli jails, and there is no information about those people. I was visiting a site nearby, just maybe 3 kilometers from here, in Jamal Abdel Nasser Street. Those people were killed in October 9th, 2025, only few hours before the announcement of ceasefire. Israel killed 42 people in this strike, in one strike, only few hours before the announcement of ceasefire. And the civil forces could take out 35 people only. So 3 days ago, the medical crews tried to come back to take the other 7. But guess what? They could take beneath the rubble only a mother and her baby. And after 3 days of working, of hard working, they found only 2 out of 7. So those 5 now, you couldn't even find them beneath the rubble, under this rubble. So where are they? You know, what kind of weapons that Israel using to increase the number of victims and to let them under layers of rubbles. So even the operations of recovery will be very difficult or even impossible. So this is only a few days ago happened, and I watched and I followed this story for 3 days. I visited this site for 3 days just to make sure and to take the information directly from the people there, directly from the site. And they told me after 3 days of hard working, they got only a mother, and the mother, they knew the mother from her hair. There was nobody, you know, only a few bones and hair. So they found that, okay, this is the mother, and they found a few bones near her. So they thought, okay, this is the baby. But there is no DNA devices to check and to know the IDs of those people, because Israel, after 1,000 of genocide, even a DNA devices couldn't enter Gaza to know the identity, the ID of those people, the names of those people. Can you imagine that, to call you to come to watch the clothes of those people after 1,000 days of genocidal war, to guess if this is your daughter or not, to guess if this is your son or not, from his clothes, because there is no, it's like, it is very difficult. And these stories are not really published because we don't know how to tell the people the truth. We tried our best. The Palestinian, every single one in Gaza tried his best to convey the message, to tell the world the truth, but it's so we miss many people, very beautiful people with their dreams, with their passion to life. But again, we didn't lost our passion. We want to live in peace. We want to live in our land. We want to rebuild Gaza again. We want to rebuild our infrastructure. We want to revive the city again. So if the international committee could bring vehicles to Gaza Strip, so please bring us the other needs so we can rebuild our city. We maintain our infrastructure again. Otherwise, we don't care. Otherwise, so you can just play your games, play your political, games, but we don't care.
Yeah, I mean that's what it feels like. It's this it's a game that's being played with people's lives. Israel finds the most sadistic ways to keep killing people, not just with guns and bombs and drones and helicopter gunships, but with the prevention of the entry of medical devices, of Band-Aids, of sterile gauze, of bicarbonate that is needed to run dialysis machines, these food and water and
$1.
Yeah.
This medical supply costs $1.
That's it.
So
and they won't let it in.
You are killing people for $1.
Yeah.
For them, that's a good deal.
That's right.
It's cheaper than doing it with bombs that cost $50,000 or $100,000 each.
Right.
I'm sorry to say it.
No, that's it. It's a calculation. It's people in boardrooms, literally coming up with plans on how to cheaply kill the most amount of people, mostly children. But Asem, one thing that comes through in your writing and in our conversations over the last 1,000 days is that Gaza is not only a place of death and destruction and the worst impulses of humanity, in terms of what Israel can come up with, can produce around death and destruction in Gaza. Gaza is also a place of relationships, of humor, of stubbornness and tenderness and survival and hope. How are people still enduring? What keeps people going after 1,000 days of genocide? And what do you want people outside of Gaza to understand that they still maybe don't understand about Gaza? We ask you this every time, and we have to keep asking it. What should we be doing practically and politically to help end this genocide?
Okay, I have a very simple answer for this, and I think I answered it several times before that. We already told you what is happening here. You already know the reality on the ground. You already know what is really happening on time, because our journalists, our people tried their best. They used their broken screen phones. They published everything. This is first. Second, we couldn't just hold the genocide for a while, stop it for a while, then take a break to think for the people outside Gaza what they can do. I think you have this privilege to think, and I mean everyone, because, and I know I receive messages from my friends around the world. They are trying their best, and we really appreciate their efforts, you know, the march around the world, the writings, the live streams, the, you know, the activities in the universities, in the squares. That's huge, you know. We really appreciate it. And if I have advice, that don't feel shame, don't feel guilt, you know. We don't need your guilt, you know. Convert it to bold actions. Convert your bad feelings and your guilt and your shame to real actions on the ground, because that's what we need. You can stay home, feel upset as you want, but the children of Gaza will not feel happy for your sadness or your guilt. So convert this powerful feelings, powerful emotions, to an actions on the streets, on your university, with your neighbors. Because if you watch what happened in the past 1,000 days, you will understand there is something happened in the mindset of people. Israel couldn't fight the truth anymore, because the world, even the political leaders, by the way, they saw the truth, and now they know who is in the right and who is not. But we need to show them more until they change their political decisions and their political views. And that needs more actions and more movements around the world. Sometimes I read some news in the Israeli platforms talking about boycott is nothing. But because they said it's nothing, that should give us more strength to keep going, because that means it does matter, you know. So but again, it's all yours. You have the connections, you have the internet, you have the electricity, you have the powerful, you have the resources, you know. I know they are fighting the free people around the world for talking about Palestine. And just yesterday, there is a teacher. She got fired because she's posting about Palestine. But the action of people was great, because they demonstrated in front of the school. They hold many things to support her and to support Palestine. So it will not be easy for the decision maker later to fire another teacher. So we must be always in action, because this is the important thing. And another thing, that people in Gaza, yes, they are really suffering. It is unbelievable situation, you know. Even words can't really explain the reality that we are facing every single moment in Gaza Strip. But again, we must keep going, because we have no choice. We have kids, we have families, we have girls, we have dreams, and we have a city, and we have a nation. We have a country that we need to work together for it. Sometimes and this is reasonable, we must attack people from Gaza if they write about their, you know, bad feelings, about feeling bad about the situation, because this we are humans, you know. We feel sad, we feel upset, we feel disappointed. We are humans, and we are not you know, like a miracle people. We are trying our best to live, to hold on, to protect our kids, to to provide them with the basic needs, even with this, with the bad situation that we are living in. But in parallel, we are trying to improve our lives. And if you see what people do in their tents, in their partially damaged houses, how the engineers in the municipalities in Gaza trying to maintain the networks, the water networks, the infrastructure from nothing. They are inventing new tactics, new strategies to help people, and the people are doing the same. Now we don't have schools because 97% of our schools get damaged. So we have educational tents now. It's hell. If you visit this tent, you will feel it is very hot. The majority of these tents without chairs, without desks, so people are sitting on the ground, and teachers without any resources. But we invent this educational tent, and send our kids there because we appreciate education. We want our kids to be educated, even if the Israeli doesn't want that. So we keep our passion to life inside ourselves, because that's what our families taught us, and that's what Gaza taught us also. We have been here for 1,000 years. We know the face of this land. We know the smell of this land. We understand that, because losing it is not a choice. Losing Gaza, losing Palestine is not a choice.
Asem, I could listen to you for hours. You always restore my soul with your words and with your optimism. And
for my weird accent, I know.
No, it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful
Never.
accent. And I'm not the only one who said that. Of course, we hear you, Asem, but we also hear echoes of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 in you, through you. He also continues to speak and to carry that spirit. And listening to you, I know that your words aren't cheap. I know that you can afford to speak about hope, about a future, because you have lived through the worst things that human beings should have ever seen. I don't think anyone in history can say that they may have seen things as bad as Gaza, but I think we've seen the worst of humanity, as Nora put it, done to the people of Gaza. So we know your words aren't cheap, and if each day people in Gaza, if you and those around you are getting up and continuing to get through the day, to get through the week, to get through the year, to get through 1,000 days, then the rest of us can do it too. And I will say, last week I was in Switzerland. I think you know that too. And aside from everything else, we had a wonderful teach-in with so many people. And I have to tell you, Asem, one of the things that so many people said is, they said, of course, there has to be a focus now on what's happening with Iran. There has to be a focus on what's happening in Lebanon, the horrific massacres in Lebanon. But we mustn't forget about Gaza. They were saying that. And they were saying to me, what should we do? I said, my answer was, well, I remember seeing on Instagram so many incredible demonstrations in Zurich that shut down the center of Zurich for Gaza. I said, what's to stop you doing that now? What's to stop people all over Europe, all over America, holding rallies for Gaza now? This is the time when we need to be raising the banner of Gaza so that people aren't forgotten. And they were very receptive to that. Of course, people are already doing a lot. It's not like they're sitting and doing nothing. But people are struggling with how to keep Gaza visible and central. And I just wanted to share that with you, so you know also that people around the world are still expressing their love, their support, their solidarity, and are dissatisfied with the attention Gaza is getting. And I think the point you made about guilt is useless to people in Gaza. What they need is action. And we take that message from you, Asem. We hope that the next 1,000 days will begin to see something better than we've seen in the last 1,000 days. And we thank you so much, Asem, for joining us today. And we hope always to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me, and for all EI audience. It's always lovely to be with you, Ali and Nora. I met you in 2013. I could remember those few moments with you, lovely moments actually. And till we meet you again here in Gaza,
Yes.
inshallah.
I always
You and
boast
Nora,
about that. I always boast about that story, Asem, because of course to me it's very precious. But I always say, I met Asem when he was a student at university. Nobody knew who he was then. Now he's world famous, but I knew him before he was famous. But I'm very proud to have met you, and we have a
can't wait.
photo of that occasion. We have it, and
I
it's a
promise
very
you,
precious
we
memory
will
to
meet
me.
all again here. You will bring Ali, all the EI team here again, inshallah, one day.
can't
We'll
wait.
do a
It
live
might
show
be
from
Yeah,
Gaza.
we'll do a live show from Gaza.
We will do it.
Yeah.
We will do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Asem.
Thank you, Asem.
Ah,
I was smiling there at the end, listening to Asem, but I have to tell you, sitting here watching that again, there were parts where I was just I was crying, because just listening to Asem reflect on everyone that we've lost, that people in Gaza have lost. It's just, it's hard to really, you know, it's hard to comprehend. And
and I think like the fact that it's hard to comprehend, the fact that we can't imagine the depth of the cruelty and the pain and grief is is a credit to our own humanity. That there's no way that we should get used to this, that we should just be numb to it, that we should just passively accept it or feel hopeless about it. But
or just move on from
or
it.
just move on, exactly.
I mean, I know, a lot of us struggle with this, that we have to get on with life, but and there is a feeling of guilt in that like, how am I living a normal life while this is continuing? But people in Gaza are trying to live normal lives. There's nothing normal about the life they're living, but that's it. I think the question is not about, okay, we have to stop living our lives. The question is, how do we make speaking out, make action, make not being silent, how do we make that part of our everyday life?
That's right.
That's, I think, the challenge for all of us.
And maintaining activation, using these feelings of shock and grief and rage and all of this in a way that means something, instead of just shutting it off or putting it aside or saying I can't. It's really, this is our task now as people who aren't in Gaza, to hold that for them.
They want us to forget. And the reports that are coming out that we discussed with Gaza about them setting up these concentration camps now that existed in the form previously of kind of AI generated animations or whatever. They're trying to make that a reality now.
They're trying. I mean, it's human trafficking. It's concentration camps, as I said.
It's all the worst things possible. It's
just
all the worst things possible.
Depraved. And this colonial, belief that Trump's so-called Board of Peace and the Israelis have, that Palestinians will just accept it, that they'll just accept being lured in, against all impulses of their own humanity and dignity and political and human rights, that they'll trade their own humanity for a few scraps, to be human trafficked by these monsters. It's astonishing that they think that this can still go through, but this is the world we're living in and what we're all trying to fight against.
Yeah.
So speaking
Keep
of
it up, everyone, just
yeah,
just keep it up.
Yeah.
I see people here week in, week out now for
Yeah.
1,000 days, and just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
be discouraged. Keep it up.
No, we
As
can't
Asem
afford
said,
it.
Yeah, we can't
Yeah.
afford it.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, Asa.
Hi.
So, let's talk about your trip, your adventure that you took last week. That was a year and a half overdue. Is that right?
Yeah.
You returned to Switzerland for the first time since your arrest there in January 2025, if our listeners and viewers remember. Before you tell us about this trip, just remind us what happened then.
Yes. Well, very briefly, in January 2025, I flew to Zurich because I had been invited by a group called Watermelon University and also by the Palestine Committee in Zurich to take part in 2 events in Zurich, teach-ins, public events about the genocide. And I was, while on my way to the first event, I was arrested by plainclothes police, bundled into a car, imprisoned, and 3 days later, I was expelled from the country forcibly and prevented from giving those talks, participating in those events about the genocide in Gaza.
And so that was January 2025. Why did you decide to go back now? Tempt fate, as they say.
Well, a couple of reasons. One is that following that arrest, I, with the support of people around the world and some great lawyers in Switzerland, filed a number of legal actions. These included actions against the state authorities and actions against individuals. And I went back to Zurich because we had a hearing in 2 of the cases I brought against individuals for defamation. These were individuals who had, prior to my arrest and after my arrest, had used terms I'm not going to repeat that were severely libelous and defamatory and may have contributed to my arrest even. And so we had initial hearings in those cases. Because those cases are still underway, I'm not going to say a lot more about them now, but it was, a significant step that we had these what are called prosecutorial interrogations in these cases while I was in Switzerland last week. And the other reason I was there was to finally have the teach-in that we had planned for January 2025.
And I love that picture of you in the suit, Ali. You have drip, as they
And if
as
you
the
go
kids say.
back to that, Tamara, if you can show us that picture again, I'm actually standing in front of the building, and some people may be able to read the caption there. But that building behind me is the prison and police complex where I was held. So
Yeah.
That's where the hearings were this time. So I went back essentially to the same building, but this time in a suit.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you've previously won several court cases in Switzerland. Can you remind us what those are?
Yeah, that's right. So we the cases I went back for were complaints against individuals. But as I mentioned previously, we filed cases against the Canton of Zurich and against the Swiss Federal Police, FEDPOL, and we won those cases in the Zurich Cantonal Court and in the Swiss Federal Court. And those courts, that's 3 cases that we won so far, they ruled that my arrest and detention were unlawful, unconstitutional, violated the European Convention on Human Rights, and violated my due process rights. So we won sweeping victories so far in all the cases that have been completed.
That's great. And there's a case specifically against Nicoletta Della Valle, and you had some big news happen about that while you were in Switzerland. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so Nicoletta Della Valle, and this article on screen now is one by Asa. So I don't know, Asa, maybe you can tell the story briefly of who Nicoletta Della Valle is, and then I'll pick up what happened while I was there.
Yeah, so Nicoletta Della Valle was the head of FedPol, which is the Swiss Federal Police Agency. So, you know, Switzerland has this federal system of cantons. So she was kind of the top cop of the country, but in a nutshell, she essentially abused her position to ban you, Ali, from the country after you entered the country, which was quite an astonishing level of misuse of her position. And it's not just Asa Winstanley saying this, it's not just the Electronic Intifada saying this. This is what has been ruled now in the legal proceedings that you've initiated. And you know, it wasn't only her, but it does seem that her intervention was crucial to that. And she actually intervened against the professional opinions of the professionals who looked at your record, looked at the kind of things that you were likely to be saying in your speeches, in your talks that you were planning to come to Switzerland to do. And even the Swiss intelligence agency found that, you know, what you were saying was within the bounds of legal free speech, and that you weren't any security threat to the country, which was what was being claimed by Nicoletta Della Valle and her minions. And, you know, their opinion was that you should have been allowed to come to the country. She overruled that, and it led to this last-minute effective kidnapping of you from the street. And so now, you know, this story that I just did a few days ago, the really interesting development is, due to the legal victories that your lawyers have achieved in Switzerland, in a nutshell, she is now going to be investigated for misuse of public office, a criminal offence. So, I mean, I think, Ali, this is really important what you and your lawyers have managed to do here, because you've already imposed, like, these kind of things. Unfortunately, I mean, we've covered so many things like this over the years, you know, at the Electronic Intifada, perhaps not quite as extreme as being kidnapped off the street, but certainly being denied entry. In some ways, like, you know, long-standing readers of the Electronic Intifada, some of my earliest stories for the Electronic Intifada, or earliest ongoing stories anyway, was for about Raad Salah, who a Palestinian political and religious leader, who in the 48 territories, in the 1948 occupied territories of Palestine, a Palestinian citizen of Israel, back in, when was it? I think it was 2011, way back in 2011. Something similar happened to him, actually. In some ways happened to him in Britain as to what happened to you, Ellie. He wasn't deported. They tried to deport him, but he was banned after entering legally, essentially due to Zionist pressure. And there was a long-running court case, you know, and he stayed in the country under house arrest. So, you know, these things do happen from time to time over the years. But what you're doing here, winning these legal victories, is you're kind of imposing a cost on the Zionists' minions and Zionists' tools like Nicoletta Della Valle. and potentially, hopefully, even criminal costs. So we'll see how that develops.
Yeah, and thanks, Asa. Now, and I'll add to that of course, Asa, as you've written too, Nicoletta de la Valle retired soon after she gave the unlawful orders, as the courts have now ruled, that led to my arrest and expulsion. She retired and immediately got a job with an Israeli investment firm called 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿, which makes which invests heavily in the arms industry and very likely profits directly off the genocide. And she also has a long history of outspoken support for Israel, that even while she was in public office, which was just very inappropriate for a top police official who's supposed to be a civil servant. She's not she's not a politician in that sense. And so we actually brought the criminal complaint against her for abuse of office. And what happened while I was in Switzerland is that the Swiss Department of Justice rendered a decision to lift her immunity, because as a top federal official or former official, you cannot prosecute her unless they decide to lift her immunity. And they don't take that decision lightly. They took that decision on the basis that, in the sort of technical legal language, that this complaint was not manifestly unfounded. In other words, it wasn't frivolous, and that it's a serious charge. And so that it met that high threshold in order to have the immunity lifted. And what I was told is that this is very rare. So even getting this far is quite an achievement. Of course, I can't say what the outcome will be. Nothing is guaranteed. We've won 3. We hope to win the others, but we don't know. We'll see where it goes. We'll do our best. But I think you're right, Asa, that simply even getting it this far is significant. And what a lot of people told me in Switzerland, a lot of Swiss people, is they said, thank you for doing this, because we want to know what happened and we want our leaders to be accountable. And that's what it's about. Ultimately, it's about deterring these kinds of abuses against other people and drawing a line and saying, you cannot, that there is a price for coming after people just because they're standing up against genocide or speaking out for Palestinian rights. Enough is enough.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and it's time we fought back. Like Zionists have used lawfare for so many decades, and Israel has used lawfare for so many decades, and I think using the law to defend ourselves and imposing a cost is important.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned a little bit in our interview with Asem about the teach-in that you were there to do a year and a half ago, and you were finally able to do last week. Tell us about how that went.
It was fantastic. I mean, the energy was amazing. Of course, we won the right to do that. The right to freely have events, freedom of assembly, free speech, but you still need a venue, and there are still very few places in Switzerland, and this is true perhaps in Germany and other places in Europe, who will host an event like that. So there was a fantastic vegan restaurant and ice cream parlor called Cafe Vegeletaria in Zurich. So if you ever go to Zurich, check them out, because the food was great and they provided a space. They have sort of I guess it's a banquet space, or it wasn't a huge space, but it was, sort of like a big classroom, let's say, and it was packed full, and they let us use that space, and we're very grateful for their courage. And the energy was amazing. People were sort of packed in because there wasn't a lot of space, and it was very, very hot. As you may have heard, there's a heat wave across Europe and here in the United States right now. And I guess the heat also made it, gave it that intense atmosphere. It was wonderful. And I'll just say we had quite a bit of, uh, well, I'll come to this, but Tamara, if you see, if you skip down in the media items I gave you and show the photo of me with Pascal Lothar, this is he's a Swiss academic, and he's the host of the very popular, informative YouTube channel Neutrality Studies.
Hmm.
Many of you will know he's based in Japan, but he happened to be in Switzerland, and he came to Zurich to meet me, and we did an interview, myself and Amira Berzi, who is one of the Watermelon University organizers. That's already on YouTube, but he also filmed the teach-in, and I believe he's planning to put that online, and it was really a great event. So, so stay tuned for that. And when he does publish that, perhaps I'll also write a little post for the Electronic Intifada. So if you're subscribed to our email newsletter, you'll get that as well. And the other thing I'll say just briefly is that my hosts, the activists and organizers from Watermelon University, did a fantastic job of organizing the press. There was interest in my visit, so we got a number of interviews with national media in Switzerland, and we can show some of those. So an interview in Le Courrier, and then also in Le Temps. These are the French language papers, and also in the Tagesanzeiger, which is one of the main German-speaking newspapers. Was not a good interview. I gave a good interview, but they wrote it up in an extremely biased way.
Yeah.
The others were good, and there were others. Baba News as well, which is a great Swiss outlet that's mostly online, and they have a video of me circulating on Instagram that makes me look a lot cooler than I am. But the point is, there was a lot of interest. I wanted to talk, and I did mostly talk not about what happened to me, but about what is happening in Gaza. And that's the point, is they wanted to stop that. And instead, I got a much bigger platform to talk to people in Switzerland about the genocide. And that's a good outcome.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of typical, right? Like the Zionists and the politicians conspire to silence someone who's coming to talk about Palestine, and it just ends up giving them even more publicity. So we love it when that happens. The cost is, of course, awful, but but it just goes to show how, these measures of repression never work. They never work in the favor of those who are doing the repressing. And
well, we have to fight back.
We do.
I have to stress again that I was able to fight back, and I'm still fighting back because we still have these cases going, because there's been a lot of support. The legal work is being crowdfunded. So that's, people all over the world. We've had about 1,000 people who've made donations that have supported the legal work. I have fantastic lawyers, Dina Ravel, Stephanie Motz, and Leah Hungebühler, who have also been very generous with their time in making this work possible. And lots of people on the ground in Switzerland who have been doing freedom of information requests, who've been, I don't want to make the pestering in the correct way as they should, their government and their lawmakers, to say, hey, this violated our rights too, because we were denied freedom of assembly. We were denied the right to receive information. And so that's what it takes wherever this happens. Asem mentioned, teachers being fired for speaking out about the genocide. And when there's a community response, when there's solidarity, when people fight back together, we win. That's really the message to take away from this.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I'm so glad that the people in Zurich finally got to welcome you, and hopefully you'll be back again. Thanks,
They were
Ali.
really lovely. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to everybody
Yeah.
in Switzerland, and particularly in Zurich, who was so kind and welcoming. And
Yeah.
in Zurich, I saw, you know, as you do in practically every city, you'll see Palestinian flags in windows. You'll see stickers against the genocide on lampposts. You'll see all of these signs of what people really think. And
Yeah.
that, to me, is the real Zurich.
That's right. Thank you. And just a reminder, John Elmer is off this week. He will be back next week. People in the comments have been there's all sorts of conspiracy theories. No theories. He's just earned a break. He's fine. Everything's fine. Let's take a look at the website. We've published so many wonderful features and, of course, news reports. There's our dogged EU reporter, Dave Cronin, doing what he does there on the front panel.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Can I just say the
Yes.
headline there is a little bit modest. It
Yeah.
says secrecy over officials' Israel trip challenged by EU citizens watchdog. And what David is writing about there is that he made a complaint to the European Union Ombudsman's office about their lack of transparency about who paid for Katharina von Schneurbein's one of her junkets to Israel. Katharina von Schneuerbein is nominally the EU official who's there to fight anti-Semitism. In reality, she is a very aggressive lobbyist for Israel.
Yeah.
And effectively a very ardent supporter of the genocide. And so it was, in fact, David Cronin who triggered this inquiry by the EU Ombudsman's office, which came back and said that the European Commission has not been transparent enough about Katharina von Schneuerbein's activities and should be more transparent. Whether they will or not remains to be seen, but I can assure you David Cronin will be there watching them and holding them to account. So actually, I think, in this headline, EU Citizens Watchdog refers to the Ombudsman's office, but I'm going to say that David Cronin is the real EU Citizens Watchdog here.
Sure is. Beautiful. Thank you for that. I mean, we have, I read a couple of stories during the news report. There's one about the CT scanners. There's just 2 CT scanners for 1 million people in northern Gaza. That's the headline. We published that this week. Again, Istra's feature story, Stable Childhood is Out of Reach in Gaza. There's a beautiful one that our colleague Khaled helped edit this week. My Nickname Gives Life to My Aunt, which hopefully I'll be able to read next week.
Such a moving piece.
Beautiful by Ahmed Sabeh. Just gorgeous and moving and heartbreaking as well, of course.
And let's talk for a second about our colleague Michael Brown's piece.
Yeah.
Grassroots voters reject AIPAC and boost Palestinian liberation in New York. And this is about that slew of primary victories of candidates endorsed by New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, winning a number of key races and defeating some established Democratic incumbents, including the person we see in the photo there, Daria Lisa Chevalier, who is an avowedly anti-Zionist and was also endorsed by Mamdani. So this is, again, we've talked in recent weeks about the huge shift in public opinion in the United States, and this is another manifestation of that. As I said,
she wrote for the Electronic Intifada.
She did, she did. And of course, remember Zohran Mamdani invited me to speak when he was in college in 2013. So the Electronic Intifada really is controlling things behind the scenes. It's just a joke, guys.
God, if only.
There are conspiracy theorists out there. And of course, I met
Obama.
Barack Obama before he was
Right.
elected president. So I don't know. You better, we're secretly picking the winners here. Although
So
not always good ones, at least in the case of Barack
they
Obama.
always end up disappointing us.
I know. Well, yeah, but so really, really significant things happening politically that Michael's writing about. But I just wanted to bring, this is something that's going around. A lot of people commenting on. Tamara, I'm going to drop this in the chat, and if you can put up this story, which is from Axios, and it's been circulating. And the headline is Kamala Harris reaches out to Mamdani, pro-Palestinian activists in run-up to 2028. And the idea here is that Kamala Harris, who lost to Donald Trump, quite an achievement, is thinking of running again in 2028, and she wants to get some of that Zohran Mamdani shine, and so she's sucking up to him. And I'm not sure who these pro-Palestinian activists are. I don't think you can be very pro-Palestinian if you are meeting with somebody who was a staunch part of an administration that co-perpetrated this genocide with Israel, that started this genocide. But I think this is very interesting because these politicians who are so stained in blood, they need Mamdani. He doesn't need them. And so I see a lot of people commenting on how he's, he did that photo op a few weeks ago with Barack Obama. And now we see Kamala Harris reaching out. And I think the story says that he's talked to her on the phone or something. And that makes people, I see a lot of commentary where people are feeling a little bit queasy about that.
Yes.
I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, queasy is an understatement. I mean, she is Holocaust Harris. She, has so much blood on her hands and was so unliked and unlikable. I mean, here in California, where she was Attorney General, I believe, for San Francisco, or the district attorney, I can't, all these titles, and then, and then tried to run for governor. No one liked her when she was running for governor. And then all of a sudden she was running for president.
No one liked her then either.
No one liked her then either. She's
always done badly in the primaries.
Yeah, I mean, she like Hillary Clinton, she loves to keep losing. She loves to back genocides and war criminals. She loves to to co-author genocides. And yeah, I mean, she like probably a lot of people in the Democratic Party know which way the wind is blowing. But again, there's nothing material that they want in terms of appealing to the actual values and desires of their constituents. They want to pretend like they are anti-war or support sanctions on Israel, but when it comes down to it, they are just they're as pro-genocide, as pro-Israel, as pro-Zionist as ever.
There's a reason they want to pretend that they're pro-Palestinian. Yeah. It's because they see the poll numbers and they see where the base of the Democratic Party is. And someone like Mamdani, who's a politician, is not pretending when he, and I know people are going to get at me, but he has a long record going back to his student days of supporting Palestinian rights. So there, the issue for people who are watching is not, is he pretending to support Palestinian rights, but is he compromising on his support for Palestinian rights when he, he's in the Democratic Party. That's the starting point. But that doesn't mean, that he has to lend credibility or allow himself to be used to rehabilitate someone like Kamala Harris, who is so complicit and so responsible for this genocide. She willingly remained part of an administration as it was perpetrating genocide. She defended it. She spoke for it, and she wanted to continue it and continue the genocide. So the idea that she's somehow like, oh, she was just vice president, she couldn't have done anything. She could. The meekest person has the ability to speak out. What about when you're vice president of the United States?
And who are these pro-Palestinian activists, like you asked? I mean, it's probably what, J Street? It's
I don't know. I mean,
stand with us.
Know.
Who knows?
I mean, I'm sure they could just find some like token Palestinian community activist no one's ever heard of, or not
the
even
ones who were shilling for the Democratic Party during the elections. All of those. Yeah.
I think the thing to me about Kamala Harris is that it was more important to her to support Israel's genocide than to beat Donald Trump, because it was that simple. It was a very, very clear calculation. It was very obvious that was such a not the only issue people were voting on, but it was such a decisive issue in her loss to Donald Trump. You cannot get your base, your voters to come out and be enthusiastic to vote for you if you're going to be so openly pro-Israel in the midst of an Israeli genocide. It's just not possible.
All these people are breathing a huge sigh of relief that Zohar Mamdani, as is publicly reported, is not eligible ever to be president because he's naturalized. They all breathe a sigh of relief, but they see that he's got energy, he's got support. He, even if we're sometimes saying, well, did you really need to say that? Or did you need to keep Jessica Tisch on, the ultra-Zionist NYPD chief? At the same time, he is articulating things that a lot of people feel about the genocide, about AIPAC, the way he spoke out very strongly about AIPAC and didn't back down. And they see that that's the way the things are going. And that's, if they were Democrats, actual Democrats, they would embrace that. But what they're trying to do is triangulate to say, we want that cachet and popularity that comes from appearing pro-Palestinian, but we don't want to actually change our policies. And I think that's what makes people so mistrustful and so suspicious of all of these moves.
Well, unfortunately, we'll have to hear her name again.
And maybe soon, I don't know, it will be interesting to hear from Asa his analysis of I don't know
who's the new guy?
What is it, Keir Starmer 2.0 or Tony Blair 3.0? Andy Burnham, who is maybe the next tenant in number 10 Downing Street.
Yeah, I can give you the short version. I mean, he is a different wing to the Labour Party, Andy Burnham. He's what's called the soft left, whereas Jeremy Corbyn was supposedly the hard left. I mean, this was the media sort of shallow analysis of the differences between them, whereas the reality was quite different. But I think Andy Burnham is a different political tendency within the Labour Party, and he may change some policies of Keir Starmer when it comes to domestic issues, but I think the international policies will remain the same. And perhaps, like Kamala Harris, there may be some attempt to curry the favour of the Labour Party's voters and base in terms of making meaningless public gestures towards some minimal form of Palestinian rights without actually committing to changing any of the policies. But I think if and when, as seems likely, Andy Burnham becomes the Prime Minister, British policies will remain the same. He certainly, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I find it very difficult to imagine that he, for example, would unban Palestine action. I would not see that coming. I think that's highly unlikely, and of course, commitment to Israel's genocide and arming and supplying it with intelligence and so forth. I don't see that changing under Andy Burnham.
Well, we'll have to.
We'll keep an eye on that. For sure.
Definitely keep an eye on that. We're lucky to have you there in the UK to explain your country to us here in the rest of the world.
We don't understand this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very primitive culture, very uncivilized.
Maybe one day you'll accept civilization at some point. All right.
We have many tribal divisions in this country.
No kidding. Well, I believe there's a big World Cup game between the civilized world of Mexico and
some very primitive rituals, throwing alcoholic beverages in the air.
Oh God, pray for Mexico. Ali, we have so many people we have to thank this week, and we're off the live stream last week, so there must be twice as many that we need to thank.
There are, and just to remind people that the Electronic Intifada, everything you see on the website, everything you see on this live stream, is thanks to you. It's thanks to people like you who make it possible through your contributions. That's the way we do it. Otherwise, wouldn't happen. So we're very grateful to all those people who have gone to the website and clicked the donate now button or clicked the donation links in the YouTube video description, and to those who, especially to those who make a monthly donation. That's a great way to sustain us over the long term and do it in a way that's manageable. We only want people to donate if they can afford it, and there's lots of people who can, and that way you give this information, you help us make this available for everyone, because as I say every week, we make this program, all the reporting we do, we make it free for everyone in the world. That's our goal, that's our mission. And in doing so, you help us to support our writers in Gaza and across Palestine and their families, in Lebanon as well. Right now, you're the ones who help us sustain all of these great reporters who are doing so much good work. So I'm just going to name a few people. And yes, I'm going back 2 weeks since we didn't have a live stream last year. So I'm going to thank Ammar, David, Mary, Andrea, Shara Lambos, Jangun, Shazmin, Henry, Susan, Matthew, Christine, Joyce, Shahab, Saeed, and Yusuf. Thank you to each and every one of you. And there are a few people, actually, I'll mention a few people who even made donations during the program: Paula, Marion, James, and Ian among them. So if you want to do that, go to electronicintifada.net and click donate now, or there are donation links in the YouTube video description. And thank you to everyone. We love you. Those of you in the chat who are here every week, those who share the stories, send them to family and friends, and do all the things you do to help keep this issue front and center.
And of course, thank you to Tamara Nassar, our brilliant producer and director. Thank you, Tamara. Thanks to Eli Curzon for social media production. Yes?
Can I just say,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Nora, as you're going up, but someone says in the comments, I'm not taking you to task for this, Joshi says, does anyone have an alternative to John Elmer for this week? There is no alternative to John Elmer.
You're just going to have to wait for next week. He did a resistance report last week. I did a standalone news report, and he did a standalone resistance report. So you can get your fix if you didn't see those last week. But yeah, he will be back, we promise.
Even John Elmo's got to sleep sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we encourage that.
we do. It's very important.
Because we're all here for the long haul, so we all
Yeah.
got to look after ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't afford to burn out. So thank you to Mara, thank you Ellie, thank you Pierre Loisel for radio production. Thank you to all of our colleagues at the Electronic Intifada. Thank you all for listening, and on behalf of myself, Ali, Asa, and Tamara, thank you all, and we will see you next week.